Welcome back. We have Ted Abernathy, who, let's set a context for a second. We're at the Hyatt downtown. We've had a full day at the Regional Summit for Central Kentucky's 9 regions, figuring out what economic forecasts look like, what the future is going to be, and then taking a look at a little bit of the past. So we get to have Ted Abernathy here and are excited to share a little bit of what happened at the summit, as well as diving a little bit deeper into the local Lexington forecast.
Yeah, and so customarily on our podcast, we have a lot of Kentucky folk, we have a lot of Lexington folk, and we always normally ask them to introduce themselves because we're going to leave something off of your resume. So if you could give the listeners / watchers a little bit of background on what you do and what your company is, and
Sure.
Set up a conversation a little bit, that'd be great.
Great. So I'm the managing partner of a consultancy that is based in Charlotte, North Carolina. My partner is based in New York City, so it's a bit of a contrast there. We've been around about a dozen years. The company does 3 basic things. We do strategy for states and regions economically, and strategy for companies. We do corporate communications for large companies, a lot of real estate, a lot of engineering, architecture companies. And then the third thing we do is some locational analysis for companies to decide where the best parts of the country to be are. We don't do site selection, so we don't look at the piece of dirt, but we look at metros versus metros all over America. Before that, I spent time running the economic think tank for Southern Governors, and I was a practicing economic developer for just under 30 years, the last decade running the Research Triangle's economic development programs. I'm old, yes, I've been around a long time.
We love it.
Yes.
So this morning, you had an incredible session. We're not going to be able to portray everything because so much of it was data rich by how you were able to tell the stories on the slides. But a couple things that stood out was from a national level, we are mid-pack on some things.
Kentucky, yeah, mid-pack's good. Some things you're better than mid-pack on, but you're in that group of the 20s usually on most factors.
What's the digest that you look at Lexington, you're like, I wish that they would do this and they would just level up one more level?
I think the biggest deterrent in Lexington right now is the lack of overall growth in labor force. So it's a throttle. So if you think about it, you can do all the new things you want to do, but if there aren't more workers, then new things tend to displace old things. And so you have a high quality of life here. Lexington's a beautiful city. If you go out to Georgetown, if you go to Berea, those are beautiful places to live. Kentucky as a state has not been growing its population as fast as other places. And so the labor force here is a throttle on your economic growth. So trying to be aggressive about being the home for new people, if you want to grow, is going to be part of that. And we do work, I think we're currently working in 27 states, some of them shrinking, some of them growing so fast they're trying to slow it down. And so it's, all across that spectrum. But if you're trying, we look at metros versus metros, what tends to pull you down is your lack of overall population growth.
And population growth is reactive to what factors usually?
The 4 things, so people move for a good job, to be near family, or to change their quality of life. Those are the reasons they move. When they start trying to figure out where, they tend to look at affordability and desirability. So what's the housing stock like? How affordable is it? What's the public education or higher education like? What is health like in your community? And then number 1 tends to be how safe your community is. Both businesses and people want to feel safe. If you think of Maslow's hierarchy of needs, the first thing we want is to secure ourselves. Then we'll worry about all the rest of that. And so if somebody sees high crime rates here or there, then those communities tend to get taken off their list. And again, you're middle of the road on those kind of things. You have crime, but you're not one of those places in America where people are running away from because they have high crime. So again, middle of the pack.
SVN Stone Commercial Real Estate is a full-service commercial real estate firm located in Lexington, Kentucky. Affiliated with the SVN International Network, SVN has over 200 offices across the globe. The SVN Stone team consists of experienced commercial real estate advisors in the heart of the Bluegrass. SVN helps their clients with commercial property sales, leasing, investments, and property management. Let SVN help you with your commercial real estate needs. Check us out at svnstone.com. Yeah, and so you work all over the country. What are some topics or factors in your day-to-day work right now that you feel passionate about? If you were to try to consolidate a little bit of your keynote today that you would want to tell somebody listening that lives in the Bluegrass region?
Yeah, so when you measure competitiveness, you look at business climate, and we spent some time today listening to state officials talk about your business climate. And business climate is not just taxes. Taxes are part of it, but it's also regulatory environment and legal environment, and overall, how your state's doing financially. I know you've had some bond rating upgrades recently, so that's a good sign. Secondarily, it's about workers, and do you have enough? Do they have the right skills? What's your workforce participation rate? What's your productivity numbers? Infrastructure, that includes roads, water, sewer, but housing, air service, child care, broadband, power, bunch of different things. And I know there's a long list here, but people look at long lists. You heard a site selector today say she had 850 data points on every metro. We have 1,200 on every metro. So it's a bunch of those. Innovation, what's your ecosystem like? Is it easy to do business? Are you starting new businesses here? And then risk factors. What's the weather? What's the crime? What's your insurance rates? All of that. So we look at all of those things when we're measuring places against each other. And the bad news is that you only choose one. I mean, this is, you only live one place, you only work one place. And so at the end, somebody wins and everybody else loses. And so locally, if you're competing, you have to win, or it didn't matter. You're going to lose unless you win. And so all those factors come into play.
Talking about economic development / recruiting new corporate HQs, business into the region. What are some of the, what I would call, I guess what anybody would call competitors that Lexington deals with regularly? Are there parts of the population, parts of the country that we're often competing for corporations with?
Yeah, so we've spent some time here because we've worked with Jenna and her team. So you're competing with Louisville, you're competing with Cincinnati, you're competing with Nashville, Indianapolis, Chicago. That's the first round of places. Inside your state, you're competing with mid-sized metros around the southeast typically, but that probably spreads out because you're now competing for companies that were somewhere else. So think Philadelphia, Pittsburgh, Jersey City, where people might be moving away from. So now you're in a competition of, do I stay there or do I come here? But always start with that Cincinnati, Indianapolis, Nashville kind of nearby, because people who choose those are choosing because they want to be in this part of the country, because being near a deep water port on an East Coast isn't their issue. And those are I think where you'd start.
So one of the things that I appreciate you talking about was, if housing affordability is a main problem, or if somebody that's working two jobs or working two incomes in a household can't afford to buy a home, that's sometimes a bad thing.
Yeah.
Walk through the supply and demand of what housing looks like on the macro level that you work through.
Yeah, so you start out with just shelter, not housing. So housing, apartments, condos, townhomes, whatever, rental and purchase. Both have been going up pretty dramatically around the country. 40 to 60% gains in the overall price over the last 4 or 5 years is typical. So it's 42% in Kentucky, something like that. You are still affordable. And affordability is based on how much you make. So it's the quality of jobs. And so, in New York, affordability is different than it is here, but wages are different.
What's that economic theory that says, does land value dictate the the pay needed, or the pay then dictate the land value? What's that concept?
It's both. The market will certainly yield what it can yield. It's a balance. So if the three of us all make $100,000 a year, then someone's trying to build housing for us. They're going to build a house that's for a family that makes $100,000 a year. They're not going to build a house for a family that makes $1 million a year because none of us would buy it. They're also not going to build a house that would be cheaper because we weren't going to buy that either. So it matches. They tend to match up. What's happened over the years is that our tastes have gone up. So part of it is, I think one of your representatives here talked about this today. So I'm a different generation from you guys. We had one bathroom in our house growing up. We had 4 rooms in the house, and we weren't. I don't think we were poor. I think we were normal. There was Formica on the floors and the countertops. There was a furnace. There was no air conditioning. I grew up in North Carolina where you should have had air conditioning. Today, you would never build a house that was 800 square feet for a family of 4 with those kind of things. So our taste have driven some of the prices up. What we require at a local level has, if you've got to have sidewalks, or you've got to have setbacks, or you've got to have landscaping, or whatever you add to your requirements in your zoning code, then that brings the prices up. But we also got more dense, and so land went up in value. So we know there are parts of Lexington that are really dramatically beautiful, and a lot in that area really expensive because it's very highly desirable. If you move out one county, you can probably find yourself a field that doesn't have anything on it. It's really pretty flat, mow it and do whatever if it's zoned right. And so you would spend your time trying to maximize the return on that field by hitting the market for the wages. And you do a lot of work on what the wages would yield for you in the area. And if some big company came and had more wages coming in, you would immediately think, I'm going to upgrade what I'm going to build here because I'm going to match that market.
Craftsman Contractors is Central Kentucky's one-stop shop for roofing, windows, siding, and gutters. CraftsmanContractors.com/contact us will get you straight to the form you need so that their team will get in touch about your project. Or just text Steven at 859-246-0108. When they finish your project of windows, siding, gutters, or roofing, you'll see what they mean when they say we build with integrity.
You go to a lot of places all over the country. We named a few places that you're traveling to, just traveled to, and are future traveling to. Are we experiencing, is the Bluegrass region, is Lexington experiencing similar growing pains to other places? Is this incredibly unique?
No, you're not unique. There are, I used to say there were
I think we want to be unique.
You're special. How's that? I used to say that there were no places that were unique, and then we had Hawaii as a client, and Hawaii's unique. It's like you could say no place is an island. Well, okay, Hawaii's an island, so it's different. But other than Hawaii, you have housing issues. America everywhere has housing supply issues if your economy's good. If your economy's bad, if you're pick your favorite place to pick on in the Northeast, but people are moving out, housing values are dropping. You have childcare issues. Childcare is really hard to make financially work. The numbers just don't work on it. You have inside the urban core, outside the urban core issues. If you're inside the urban core and you like your neighborhoods and everything exactly the way you like it, then you're going to be against everything that changes it. That's normal. If you're outside and you don't like the way everything, you want something more, you're going to allow something more. Those are very typical. They're all over the place. You're also a university town, and university towns around the country have very similar sort of political responses to growth. If you're being mean, you say they all have drawbridge syndrome, where I got mine, I like my place, I'm brought up, whatever. If you're not being mean, you say that they have people who are highly educated, who have real opinions and who study these issues and, argue at a much higher level about them. But if you go to Champaign-Urbana, or you go to Chapel Hill, or you go to Boulder, or you go to Ames, Iowa, you have the same exact debates, same political discussions that you tend to have here.
What's the solution?
What do you want to get accomplished?
How can you fix us? I would say
I enjoy you. I think you have a beautiful community, and so I enjoy being here. But if you want to fix affordable housing, then the answer to a housing cost is supply demand. I told a group last night that if you dropped out of economics class on day 2, day 1, they told you that supply and demand works with price. So you're a highly desirable place, which means your demand's high. If your supply doesn't keep up with that, your prices automatically go up. If you are a good place, but your demand goes down, your supply stays the same, your price goes down. That works everywhere. So here you have to balance the new growth with the desirability and the demand.
So if we have the urban service boundary and we have to go up then costs more, but then you need to have the payrolls that can substantiate that. Is that saying that we need stronger job centers first, or what's the progression that you see?
Normally not up, normally out. I mean, New York and a few places being exceptions, but normally what urban service boundaries create is sprawl past the boundary. If you look around the country, so if you're in Portland or you're in Chapel Hill, North Carolina, and they've created a boundary, then the growth jumps the boundary. And so what you get in the boundary is traffic, because everybody's driving to and from, but you don't stop the growth. And there's a certain amount of our population that wants vertical living. Maybe young people who want that live, work, walk thing. Maybe old people who want that, a little bit of the sense of they could live within their blocks. But families typically are not vertical livers in America. They're typically looking for places that they can have a little grass and their kids can have a little room. And so if you're trying to get to that kind of population, which is the working age population, then you're going to have more options for them in housing than vertical.
Develop Lex is also sponsored by Community Trust Bank. Hi there, this is Cam Dacey, Commercial Loan Officer at Community Trust Bank and avid Develop Lex in Middle Tech podcast listener. Community Trust offers a wide variety of home loans, commercial loans, and small business loans to suit your financial needs, as well as mobile banking, internet banking, and bill pay. Their friendly and professional staff would love to assist you at one of their 6 Lexington locations. Community Trust Bank is committed to building communities built on trust. Member FDIC, equal housing lender, subject to credit approval.
And so we go into regionalism, not on this podcast, but I think that was a lot of our theme today is if we are going to implement a boundary, if some of these issues are going to continue to happen, then we do have to think of Lexington as maybe greater Lexington. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, well, how you think about it is a lot about how you talk about it, but you are already a regional labor market. You're already a regional housing market. You're already a regional recreation market. I mean, you're already a regional work market. I mean, people from downtown go out, people from out come. I mean, those things are already here. You're already regional. The question is, what do you do about it? How do you act about it? Do you collaborate? Do you try to work together to get what you each and all want? Or do you just let the markets do their thing? Because people are they're not gonna ask a politician or a planning board or anybody else where they want to live. They're gonna go live there. They're gonna choose their own workplace, their own play space, their own live space based on a regional economy. And so, there are places in America where I've got to live in this neighborhood. So, I want to live on the Upper East Side of New York. Or if you're inside Raleigh, which we talked about some today, there's what's known as inside the Beltway, ITB in Raleigh. So people only want to live ITB. Well, that's not most people. And by the way, if you're inside the Beltway, the homes are 5 times as expensive if you move out 10 miles. So the markets sometimes assign value to a specific spot, but most people choose something different. So they may want to live on a farm and a horse farm, and your horse farms are gorgeous. They want to live with acreage, or they might want to live in a new planned community or a golf course community, or they might just decide that they want to go live, in Bourbon County and have their farm of 5 acres with their 1 horse, but be able to breathe a little more out that way. People make different decisions, and we're a country that respects that individuals make choices. So give them choices, and they've already got them because they're already living regionally, whether you like it or not. That's the way they live their lives.